Hello, welcome to another draft video here on New Compass Games. I'm going to be doing my first recorded Kaladesh draft. So this is going to be triple Kaladesh. It's my first recorded draft, but about my 7th draft overall, probably between paper and online. I've done a number of sealed as well, so have some experience in the format, but still learning quite a bit as well. Consensus is that green is the best color, blue is probably the worst. In draft, it's potential to get a good blue deck, but for the most part, you want to avoid blue if you can, unless you pick up the good uncommons and rares to make it work. Green energy decks are pretty sweet, and the white, black, green fabricate decks are pretty good as well. Here, rare is not very exciting. I don't really like Deadlock Trap all that much. You have to work to make it continually able to be a removal spell. And I don't really want to dedicate myself to energy for such a minimal payoff at this point. Veteran Motorist is the most powerful card, but being a gold card, that means we're committing ourselves to 2 colors. Pack overall is not that great. Spark of Creativity is okay, but I don't really want to first pick that either. I guess I'll take the Veteran Motorist, because I think it is the best card in this pack by quite a bit, but I don't really like starting with a gold card here. All right, here we have some better options. The Arborback Stomper is just a big beater that, gaining 5 life helps you come back from being behind, and then as a 5/4, it hits pretty hard. The 4 toughness is a drawback. It is able to trade for quite a bit, but at least with trample, you're able to get some damage in, and if you have like a combat trick or removal spell in combat, then you can really get ahead. Other than that, Revoke Privileges is a fine removal spell, but it's not great in this format. There are a few ways to bounce or blink creatures, and that makes your enchantment removal look a lot worse. So I'm going to take the Stomper, I guess. In red-white, there's not really that much for us. We could also be looking at the Malphite Squad is fine. The Sage of Shaliu's Claim, I think, is just a worse green card than the Stomper. So I'm going to take the Stomper here. Thriving Rhino is one of the better green commons. There's a lot of good green commons, though, so it's hard to take that as a signal necessarily if you're third pick. There's also Renegade Freighter, which is probably better. Keeps our options open a little bit more. We could still play the Motorist. If the Freighter weren't here, I would definitely take the Rhino, though. There could be some argument to taking the Rhino if we wanted to play the Stomper just to cut green, send that signal to our left. But I think we just want to stay open and take the really good colorless common here. Propeller Pioneer is also a good card. Fabricate 1 on a flyer is just very flexible. It looks like there are a couple blue cards here, so blue might be open, but like I said, we kind of want to avoid blue if we can. The Theorist is just okay. The Gearseeker Serpent is good if you have an artifact-based deck, but that takes something specific. And Die Young is also pretty good, but I'm happy to take colorless cards when I can. A lot of blue playables here. The Ambitious Aetherborn is the only probably non-blue card that I'd be interested in taking. But we don't have black either, so between blue and black, I don't really have a preference other than blue just being generally weaker. We have seen a lot more blue cards though, so I'm expecting blue to be more open. That said, I probably don't want to take the Gearseeker Serpent because it requires a lot of artifacts to be good. The Aviator is probably the best value card, or we can take the Thriving Turtle since it has an energy theme, and if we end up in blue-green, we'll probably want the energy. I'm going to take the Aviator, though. I could be wrong since it's a 5-drop, and if I'm not sure between two cards, I probably want to take the cheaper one. I'm probably going to take the Trumpeter here. It's an uncommon, decent power level. It's not great in blue-green since you have fewer +1/+1 counters in blue, but it's still just a decent card. The Wingsmith is good in blue-red mostly, since most of your artifact synergies are going to come in blue-red. I don't want to take another 5-drop in the Hermit. I could take the Pyrohelix because I do think this card is quite good, but I'm not sure where that puts us in terms of colors. Yeah, I'm just going to take the Trumpeter. Okay, Acrobatic Maneuver is a decent card in certain synergy decks. We don't really have any of those except for the Stomper, being able to trigger the life gain. Triggering the Scry 2 is decent with the Motorist, but we've seen no red, so I doubt that we're going to be in red-white. This Haste 2/2 is decent as well. Again, it's colorless, which is always nice to keep us flexible. We're seeing some more mediocre black cards, so blue-black could be the most open colors, but we'll take the Steed. If we're upping our artifact count, we could be getting to the point where the Gear Seeker Serpent is worth a look. Same for the Dund Operative. That card has been pretty good. Just a 2-mana 2/2 is decent. It puts you down on the board early in the game, which is important. I think in this format there are some aggressive decks. But it also becomes a 3/2 and has Death Touch, so it's just a lot of upside on a 2/2 that's already decent playable. That said, we're seeing a Malfunction, a Windrake, and a Serpent. So it looks like blue is the most open color. And I guess I'm going to take the Serpent, though I'm not sure what would have been correct out of those blue cards. Ambitious Aetherborn, pretty good, but it's expensive and we already have a couple of 5-drops plus the Serpent. I could take the Fretwork Colony, but it's a very aggressive card, so I'd rather have that in black-red. Doesn't really make sense in blue-black if that's where we end up. I could take the Trade Winds. It's pretty good with the Stomper and the Experimental Aviator. Yeah, I got it. Take the Highspire Artisan. I think that card is fine. I think it goes well in our curve here. It synergizes with the Trumpeter, blocks flyers, which right now we don't really have much of an answer for. We can make some Thopters, and now we have a Reach blocker, which is good. And it just helps fill out our curve a bit more. Well, I don't think that we would start a Creeping Mold, but it's good to have in the sideboard. Blue-green doesn't really get the premier artifact removal, like Fragmentize or... oh, sorry, it does get the other one, the instant unnatural appetite for the unnatural. Era of Innovation could be good in blue-green, but we just don't have energy yet. And I don't want to take a second Serpent this early. I'd rather just take the 2-drop, give me some scry value. Help smooth our draws, get to our late game. I'm not going to play any of these. I haven't tried this card, but I don't think it's very good. Maybe if we need an artifact count to be a bit higher, it's worth playing, but I don't think so. The Torch Gauntlet's probably not making our deck either, but I think it's better than the 1/2. So far, not a great pack. We have 2 artifacts for the Serpent. Nature's Way here is a great pick. Getting removal in blue-green isn't always easy, and this is a really good card. Note that it's not a fight card. It's actually a deal damage equal to your power. The opponent's creature doesn't deal damage to you, so it's a one-sided fight. The Daredevil is a great card. I've been really impressed with that one in artifact decks like red-black. It's been fine for me even in green-black. Here we also have another Artisan, Revoke Privileges. Captured by the Consulate is not a card I'm really excited about. When I first had this card, I thought that it was like an arrest with upside, but it doesn't prevent the creature from blocking, so it's really not that great unless you have a decent amount of evasion. Long Tusk Cub is exactly what our blue-green deck is looking for. I mean, we don't have a lot of energy payoffs, but it's just a good card on its own. It can run away with the game if you put it down on turn 2, especially on the play, if opponent doesn't have an answer. So really happy to see that one. So far we have 4 blue cards. I'm just kind of watching to make sure that we actually are in the right colors. If there's a reason to deviate from blue, I'd be happy to take it. Welding Sparks could be that reason. It's also possible to splash in blue-green. Though if I'm going to do that, I might want to prioritize Attune with the Aether or Prophetic Prism before taking the splash cards. That being said, I think I want to take the Prism now. So that'll enable future splashes. We don't really have a ton of a need for energy at the moment. And the Prism works with our Serpent. So for all those reasons, I think I will take the Prism. Select for Inspection is also a consideration here. I could take Attune with Aether now as a fixer, but if I'm going to do that, I think I like Wild Wanderer better. It's mana fixing, it doesn't get you energy, but we don't really have the need for energy, like I've said. Malfunction also is fine. Guess it just depends how likely I am to splash. And right now we don't have a reason to be doing that, but we still have a whole nother pack to go, so it is possible we pick up something next pack that we are interested in splashing. Could also take Sky Skiff. That's a decent vehicle card. Here I want to take the Peafowl. I've been impressed with that, watching some others play the format just as a blocker, and we can also send it to the air as a flying blocker or a threat. And a 2/4 blocks a decent amount of the early aggressive decks, especially if people are creating Thopter or servos instead of putting counters on their Fabricate key creatures. This can kind of brick wall an opponent who isn't expecting it. And it ups our artifact count for the Gear Seeker Serpent. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I don't know if I want another Aether Theorist. It could be fine. Definitely puts us in a control deck, which it seems like we're in a pretty beefy mid-range type deck here. We could take Windrake as an evasive threat. 2/2 for 3 is certainly nothing exciting, but it's definitely playable. I don't know that we have enough artifacts to turn on the Wingsmith, so I think it's between the Windrake and the Theorist. Since we already have one Theorist, I'm going to try the Windrake. Now we get another chance at a Theorist. But the gear per guide, I think, is what we're going to take here. We are getting a little bit heavier on 3 drops. But the ability is pretty good. There aren't a lot of mana sinks in the format, so having a way to use your mana in the late game is powerful. There's really nothing I'm interested in here. I will take the Express. I guess maybe we would sideboard that. I can't imagine that we want to play it in our blue-green deck. Vehicles are more of a red-white or red-black kind of finisher for aggro decks. Some of the vehicles are just good in every deck, like the cheaper ones. The Renegade Freighter in particular is just a very solid common. One of the best commons, especially because it's colorless. But here I'll take the Express. Another Aether Trade Winds. No, I don't think I would take that, but there are better green cards here, so we don't need to. Attune with Aether and High Spire Artisan. Second Artisan is fine. I don't think it's that great of a card. We don't have many Fabricate cards for the Trumpeter to take advantage of, so maybe we want it for that reason, but I don't mind taking another mana fixer for potential splashes. So that means if we get something good next pack, we have Prism, Attune with Aether, and Wild Wanderer as ways to splash in this blue-green deck. Another Serpent could be good. If we want to go in this direction, we can really build around it now. We have 4 artifacts, so if we picked up 3 or 4 more, I think we'd be happy to run a second one of these. But Select for Inspection is also quite good. Just having cheap interaction in this format is worthwhile when you get into racing tempo situations. Interesting. Another Attune with Aether. So if we had a way to take advantage of this energy, I'd be a lot happier, but we already have a lot of fixing, so hopefully we'll open something sweet in the next pack that we can splash in our deck here. I'll take a 2-drop for the sideboard, even though I hate that it's foil. I don't like getting foils in my collection. It just makes sorting miserable. And I think they look pretty ugly. Well, that's a powerful card that we got. Gonti is really great. It allows you to look at your opponent's top 4 cards and basically get a free spell, and not only a free spell, but you get selection, the best of their top 4. That said, we can't splash a double colored card, even though we do have fixing. The green cards for us are quite good, though. Armorcraft Judge is usually great. If I draft it early, it's something that you can build around, but we haven't done that here. We only took the 1 Artisan, and really that's all we have for counters. So the Artisan and the Trumpeter are pretty meager to build a Judge around. But we have a Thriving Rhino and the Tiger. I'm going to take the Rhino just because it's cheaper. We have a couple 5-drops. We have 2 Serpents. Our late game is decent. But Rhino is just a great early card. Ooh, excellent. This is just an efficient flyer. So for 3 mana, 2/3 flying, it gives us energy to sustain the Rhino. Be nice if we can find another way to sink energy into some powerful effects, but hopefully we'll see those coming up. We don't really have a lot yet, but blue-green is open for us, I think, so we should be able to get some payoffs. Not exactly the payoff I had in mind. We're not going to go into Aetherflux Reservoir. It seems like a sweet card. Whenever creature enters the battlefield, you get energy. Return a creature you control to its owner's hand. So do we have enters the battlefield effects to take advantage of? Not really. We have the Stomper, and that's like it. The Stomper and the Aviator. So I don't think this is good for us. We can take the Cobra. It ups our artifact count and gives us a Death Touch 2-drop, so it's a decent blocker and an efficient creature and helps our serpents out, so I think that's the pick. Similarly, we could take the Construct, but I don't like that card very much. I think I just want to take the Riparian Tiger. It gives us another way to use some of that energy we can get with the Attune with the Aethers. We can probably play 16 lands with 2 Attune with the Aether. Just gives us basically land slots that produce energy. Interesting to see that Harness Lightning there, still in the pack. Pretty late for that one. And another Veteran Motorist. So red-white in particular looked like it was open, but we didn't really see a lot of reason to go in that direction in our draft. Maybe someone to our right is in red or white, and someone next to them is in the other color, but nobody is in red-white specifically. Artisan is decent. I don't think I want any of these artifacts. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so the Wingsmith is still not great for us. And yeah, I think we're happy with another 1/4. Shrewd Negotiation is powerful if we can take advantage of it. We have Prophetic Prism, which is really the best thing to exchange. So we get our opponent's best creature and we give them a Prophetic Prism. I'd like to pick up a second one of those if we could, but I don't expect to see any at this point. We could also give our opponent a servo from one of these artisans. We basically have 2 ways to make servos. We can give them a Thopter. The Thopter guy is pretty good with the Gearseeker Serpent, I just realized. I will take this though because I think the effect is quite good. And we don't have a lot of removal as it is, so I think that adds something that our deck kind of needs. Speaking of which, I think Appetite for the Unnatural is something we want to take here, and probably main deck. I'll find a way to make room for that one. It's just good enough in a lot of matchups. Being able to destroy a vehicle at instant speed is pretty nice. I think we'll take out the Aether Tradewinds here. I don't see us taking advantage of enter to the battlefield effects in any meaningful way. Pretty happy to get another Cobra here, actually. Again, we need artifacts for the Gearseeker Serpents, and it helps us fill out our curve. We don't have that many 2-drops. And it just blocks very effectively, except for the creatures that have trample, obviously. Another Tiger is kind of insane. Huh. I'm getting a lot of 5-drops at this point, so I don't know if we want to find some cuts there. But it is definitely powerful enough to make our deck. Take the 3-drop. We have way too many playables at this point, which means we'll be able to make some decent cuts. I'm definitely not going to play 2 Torch Gauntlets, so even if we want one, we've already got it. So let's go ahead and take Serpent. Another 2-drop for the board. We have some interesting ways we can go with this deck. We have a lot of 5-drops, but we also have 3 Gearseeker Serpents, so that make us want to play as many artifacts as we can. Like even this Torch Gauntlet could be decent. Sure, we'll take the Wingsmith. So like we can go High Spire, Artisan, Gearseeker Serpent, Torch Gauntlet direction, or we can go in a more mid-range green creature, like good cards direction. And we can also play with our mana situation here, because we have these attunes which aren't really needed since we're not splashing at this point. Let's see what we're doing. For that reason, we might take out this 4-drop. It doesn't really do anything. Yes, it gets us a land into play, but it doesn't ramp us from 4 into anything relevant. You know, we have 4-drop into 5-drop already as our regular curve. And we don't need the mana fixing, the color fixing, so I don't think we need the Wild Wanderer. Windrake is like a fine playable, but it doesn't really add to what our deck is trying to do. If we're just going to be winning with these late game cards, the Windrake doesn't do anything that important to our game for our game plan. We'd rather have an Artisan which can block better, and then buy us the time to win with Riparian Tigers or Gearseeker Serpents. The Serpents are worse in multiples when you can't pay to activate the unblockable ability. On multiple of them, you can really only afford to do one a turn. And this Trumpeter we know is pretty bad. I know I spent a reasonably high pick on it, which was probably a mistake. You know, knowing that we were going to be in blue-green, it doesn't really do anything that blue-green tends to want to do. We only have the Rhino and the Artisans and the Cubs. We have 4 ways. Yeah, 4 ways to get counters. Doesn't really seem good. Oh, 5 ways, I guess. Doesn't really seem good enough. So like this one doesn't fit our deck. This one kind of fits our deck. We don't really need to be evasive when we have a Gearseeker Serpents as our late game plan. They're already evasive on their own, so we probably don't need these 2 cards. And now we get both the artifact theme and the energy theme and the mid-range green beaters all into our deck. So I think we have the best cards in our deck at this point, and we've trimmed the fat on cards that are not synergizing with what the rest of our deck is trying to do. Renegade Freighter is just a powerful card, so I think, you know, no matter what, we would be keeping that in there. Although it does look a little bit out of place to me. It's just too good to cut. Now our curve looks pretty good. We have a few decent removal spells with Nature's Way, Appetite, and Shrewd Negotiation. We have a very good late game Inevitability, and we have a reasonable number of artifacts for the Gearseeker Serpents. Also, the Cobras are kind of like removal spells, for ground creatures at least. So we have, I think, the early game blockers, a bit of interaction, the late game evasion and inevitability all covered. So I think our deck is good to go. We even have the mana fixing for our double blue and double green spells by including 2 Attune with Aether. So I think this deck looks pretty good. We have a few sideboard options. Another artifact enchantment removal here. A vehicle if we need to bust through some mid-range mirrors somehow. I don't know, that's probably never happening when we have these 3 guys in our deck. We have some just cheaper ways to lower our curve with some 2-drops and 3-drops if we face an aggro deck. Another evasive threat or a flying blocker. Yeah, I think we have some reasonable options, and I think our main deck looks pretty good. I'm going to bias towards Forest here because we only need the first Forest in order to use Attune with Aether and get our blue mana fixing online. So I think a 9-7 split is actually pretty reasonable here. And we'll save that deck and head into the match. So 6-2-2-2. 6-2-2-2? How does the payout work? Yeah, I think that's what it is. 6-2-2-2 Swiss draft. So we'll get 3 rounds here no matter what. Hopefully we can get a 3-0 and earn ourselves a trophy. Move the camera up towards the other corner here now that we're done drafting. Oy, this hand is pretty bad. We need a second land in order to even cast anything, and hopefully we could cycle into the next land. But we're pretty far away from casting any spells that matter, even if we do hit land drops here. So let's mulligan on this one. This looks pretty good. We get a 2-drop, and we'll also be able to scry with it to control our draws a little bit. This card is like one of our only removal spells, so I think we keep it. Okay, it'll take 2 damage here, but we can block that with our 1/3. Hopefully our opponent does not have a Renegade Freighter next turn, otherwise we're probably just going to die. No freighter one time. Ooh. A 1/1 haste. Opponent has not made a land drop yet. Huh. Well, it looks like they probably have built to smash here. At least that's what they're representing. So I don't want to block the artifact, because then I'll take trample damage. I do think I want to block the 2/1. Make our opponent play their removals or their combat trick. And they miss a land drop. Okay, so we're going to take 3 damage here, unfortunately. Maybe I should have just let the damage through there, and then I could have Nature's Wade one of these guys down, but even that wouldn't have saved us from Built to Smash. That would have, killed our guy anyway, so might as well just make our opponent play it. And then hopefully the 2/4 will be able to stabilize the board. No attacks. What are they afraid of? Seems weird. So our opponent's on red-white, which makes sense from what we've seen so far. Pretty aggressive start. They most likely have some vehicles in their deck with the Speedway Fanatic. I'm not sure if the Courier is any good. A 1/1 for 1, even with haste, is not great. But I guess eventually it does cycle, since you can attack and then trigger the ability. Our 2/4 is blocking the entire board here, so the P-Fall is looking quite nice. Now we have a big threat on the board, so the 2/4 can stay back and block, and then we can just beat in with our 6/6 next turn. Plus we have a removal spell in hand, so I can't imagine many things that our opponent would play here on 4 mana that Nature's Way just couldn't kill. Madcap Experiment. What in the world is this? So they revealed an Armada Express. Put that card onto the battlefield. Okay, so they just get to like tutor up a vehicle and risk dying in the process. card is definitely not playable, but in this instance, it was a 4-mana tutor for Armada Express, or Aradara Express. So I guess it was pretty decent. The crew of 4, it's actually going to be able to attack us. We can trade... We'd have to trade both of our creatures for it, though. Kind of sucks. But an 8-mana haste is pretty good. Or 8 power hastes. Yeah. Pretty sure we're just going to have to take the trade here and double block. It's really unfortunate. Now we have to draw a creature next turn. A creature. It's not a good creature. I think I want to kill the Fanatic just so that we don't get hit by another haste vehicle. Because the vehicles are the cards that are actually going to kill us here, if anything does. Okay. It's pretty good. I'm trying to decide if I want to trade with the Courier or the Infiltrator. If we trade with the Infiltrator, we're saving a lot of damage, which is probably what we have to do. But if we let the Courier just stay in play, our opponent's going to get a lot of value from it, because we might not have another way to deal with it next turn either. That said, our opponent's board is pretty big now, so I think we just have to take this trade. Take whatever trade's available for us. Yeah, that's going to be death, I think, there. So this is a matchup where we're going to want to bring in our 2-mana 2/1s, I think. Opponent hasn't shown us any way to deal like 1 damage. We haven't seen a Chandra's Pyrohelix or anything. So hopefully our 2/1s will live, and we'll be able to block all these little dudes. That's the game plan. So these are probably coming in. The 2/3 definitely coming in. These are both, so 3/2 and a 2/2 doesn't block all that well. I think the 2/3 and the 2/1s are just better. So what can I take out for these 3? The Stomper is quite good. The Tiger, having Trample lets us end the game pretty quickly. The Serpents might not be necessary. I mean, these are only going to come down in the late game, and we really don't need the benefit of the evasion here. Probably keep 1, but we can cut back on that for sure. Yeah, these defensive cards are all great. We could take the freighter out, but it does hit really hard. Maybe one of these 5-drops goes. The Shrewd Negotiation probably goes because our opponent has just a bunch of little creatures. Nothing really that exciting for us to take. So I think I'm going to do this. Alright, this is fine. We have basically 2 mana and a couple of 2 mana plays here. So, well, 1 2 mana play, I guess. But it's a good one. The Long Tusk Cub is quite good. So we get to play that on turn 2. And if we draw 1 land, we get to play the Voyager as a follow-up, which would be pretty nice. Courier or Tiger are not exactly what we want to see there. Really like being able to go attune into Long Tusk Cub because that means we get an activation out of this already. Makes our opponent's blocks here pretty difficult. Mostly they need removal. Get wrecked, son. Bomat Courier, not good enough. It's possible I might have wanted to use the energy there just in case my opponent hit a 2-drop. They do have a low curve, so 2-drops are possible, but fortunately 1-drops are also possible. Yeah, yes, yes, yes. They do get to play it, which is pretty good, so they don't really lose the value there. Land? Yes, yes. We're doing it. That's what we wanted to see. I think we could even miss our next land drop if we needed to, and we'd still be fine. Because if we get to connect with the Voyager and the Long Tusk Cub, if our opponent doesn't have removal for these, it's going to be basically game over at that point, I would think. And that's pretty nice. If we draw land, we get to fabricate and still attack with our 2/2. Since our opponent has really no good blocks. Okay, not a bad draw. We can't play our haste creature. We don't get to play a land this turn, but a freighter is quite good. See, our opponent can double block here. Do I care? I guess it's worth waiting a turn. This way we can leave the Cub back and then block, threaten a block with the Renegade Freighter if we want to activate it. I see no reason to allow our opponent to trade, even though it is a 2-for-1. I don't think we even need to do that. I'm just going to take the damage here. don't really need to risk the cub in combat. Interesting. So they might have impeccable timing. Should deal 3 damage, so that would kill our freighter. But if we attack with the long tusk cub, it would survive since we can put counters on it. Also might mean we don't want to attack with our Imperial Voyager. Yeah, I like attacking with the cub. Opponent would have to block. We can activate, put a counter on. They would have to use the timing in response. And then we would get basically a 2-for-1 out of it. Does soak up all our energy though. But with the Voyager, we have more where that came from. Drawing a second green source in particular was great there since we have the double green with the Tiger. Now we have some 4-drops to play, so we can even wait a turn or two before we play those. This is completely fine. We don't even need to add our second energy counter into here. Our 4/4 will trade. Fine with me. Okay. We'll play the 2/4 since it blocks great, and our steed will be a haste play that we can surprise our opponent with next turn. Okay. This is an example where the Express is not great. The Crew of 4 is actually pretty prohibitive. Means you can't really do a lot of trading, which my opponent has had to do here. Now we get to attack with the Freighter, the Voyager, and then we get to play the Tiger. End of turn. Actually, what am I doing? Should be playing whatever I want to pre-combat so that I can crew the Freighter. Now I just have to decide between the Experimental Aviator or the Tiger. The Tiger just hits super hard, so I'm going to do that. Tiger also attacks into the Express. If our opponent is able to crew it next turn, we'd still be able to attack and then trade off the Express for the Tiger. Hitting for 9, our opponent's going to go down to 6 or chump block. Just cycling their hand. Alright. Works for me. They had an inspired charge, so that wasn't going to get them anywhere. Good to know about, though. Built to last inspired charge. Madcap experiment. So, I mean, our opponent can madcap experiment into their Bowmat Courier, which is pretty pathetic. It's not exactly a combo. We could take our opponent's Express, Didn't really think about that before. But still not worth playing, I don't think. I'm pretty happy with our changes post board. I guess this is fine. Would be a lot better with a turn 1 forest, but we have Prophetic Prism, so we'll be able to fix our mana after that. Could be a little slow if our opponent has a 2-drop into a vehicle or something like that. And double attune. Because we might miss our 3-drop here. If we have to spend turn 3 fetching a land with a tune, we won't be able to play these Artisans or Voyagers. So that could put us a little bit too far behind here in this race. So hopefully we draw a land here. There we go. We did it. That's what we needed to see. Yeah, the Ninth Bridge Patrol can get out of hand, unfortunately. We don't have a lot of hard removal. We kind of rely on blocking to contain our opponent's board. So if they start just attacking into our guys, it's possible that that thing could get pretty large. So we'll have to watch that one. Here I'm going to probably make a 1/1. Not sure about that. If we make a 1/1, we only get to trade for the 2/1, and we end up with an 0/3. But as it is, the 1/4 just blocks our opponent's board, and we get to keep the 1/4. So yeah, that's definitely the right play. Put a counter on it. It would be nice if we could fabricate, just so that we could start working up towards this serpent. But we're going to be hitting our land drops no matter what, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. Dragster, okay. Don't mind trading for that one. We only take 2 damage as it is. They didn't crew it anyway, so who cares? Opponent only has 2 cards in hand too. So we know we beat their existing board and they only have 2 cards left. Did they mulligan this game? Yeah, they mulligan to 6. Alright. Need to get a forest here if I want to play 2 spells, so attune for a forest, and then play another artisan. Probably still just want to put a counter on, honestly. If I put a servo out, then I'd be able to cast the Gearseeker Serpent. We're going to be able to anyway, because we'll have 6 mana, plus we have the Prism as an artifact, so that'll be 7. So we're all set either way. Put another counter on. I'm going to leave this back just in case of a haste threat. We don't need the 1 damage to kill our opponent, so there's no sense in attacking there. Well, so it looks like our opponent has one of their combat tricks, Built to Smash or Built to Last. Both of them mean that we're going to be running into a chump block here and not trading for this thing. So that's unfortunate, but don't think we really have a choice. We're going to take 2 plus 3 is 5 trample damage. We could have double blocked, and that would have killed both of our creatures, so that's not an option. Pressure point. They're just trying to draw into. Okay, yeah, they do have something. All right, so we take 5. Not a big deal. And now I just want to play the 4/4. Just play the biggest thing we can. Next turn we can attune, play the 2/1 and the 2/3 flyer. And by that point we'll probably be able to start attacking. If they have another combat trick for the dragster, that could be a problem. Like built to last would potentially be bad for us. Ballista charger. 6/6 is also potentially bad for us. Takes a crew of 3, so yeah, our opponent can do that, and then we can't kill it. It's not great. Yeah, haste on these vehicles is pretty good. I don't really want to take 1,000,000 damage here. I think we have to chump. Deals 1 to us. Jump block, play 2 creatures, and hope that we've stabilized by now. Yep, I don't think this changes our plan. If they have a combat trick, we're pretty screwed. We can't beat that. Because we're going to have to double block the 6/6 if they come in. Sure. Oh, the Charger's going to... Ugh, God. Yeah, the Charger's going to kill our 2/1. Didn't really think about that. So now they can crew both. And we're gonna have to double block the 6/6. I don't even know if that's true. Yep. Because I don't think we can take this trample damage. If we don't kill the dragster now, we'll be dead to it next turn. Ugh, yeah, this is bad. What can we do? We might just have to put the 4/4 on the dragster. Eat the 2/1. We take 8 in that scenario because of trample. We go to 1, but then we're facing 1, supposed to be 2, 3 power. 1, 2, 3. Basically 4 lethal threats, and we'd be at 1. Well, that's not gonna work. What can we do next turn? We play the steed. Even if we fabricate, we have 6 mana, so 4 mana for Iron League Steed. We make 2 artifacts. We have a third one here. So this is going to cost us 4 mana, which is not good enough. We can't do both of these in one turn, even if we draw a land. We need 8 mana for that, so that's not going to work. If we had fabricated with these artisans, we ended up chump blocking with them anyway, so the one counter didn't do anything on our blocks. It looked like it was going to stabilize the board, but because of all the tricks and vehicles that we had to block, the artisan didn't do anything as a 1/4. So if we had 2 more artifacts out, we could actually play both of these creatures. Could be the difference here. At this point, it's obviously too late for that. The blocks that I proposed... Well, let's just go to blocks and talk about it. So here and here, we're killing 2 creatures, but our opponent still has 4 creatures. This can be crewed by any one of the other 3. And if we do it, and we're taking 8 in that scenario. If we do this, we're still taking 8, but we're left with a creature here. We'd probably be left with the Voyager still. So we either kill this or we kill these 2. So it's probably better to kill these 2. The other option is blocking here and jumping. Then we take 4, 2, 4. This is probably better. Now our opponent will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 creatures out, but we're at 5. And we get to play probably the Steed. I don't know how we're winning if we play it this way, but I don't think we have a choice. Because we can't go to 1. We're effectively at 4 because this thing will tap and deal a damage to us. We're effectively at 3 because this will tap and deal a damage to us. So we're super dead if our opponent basically does anything. Servo. This costs 4 mana, so we're 1 mana short as we predicted. Yeah, I don't know. We'd be better off if we had one of those select for inspections. Cheap ways to interact with our opponent here. Just like way too fast for us. And we couldn't rely on blocking because they had too many tricks and vehicles. Giving haste to their vehicles was basically the difference in the game. So that's pretty miserable. Speaking of miserable, don't think that's what we want. All right. And where were you last game? turn 3 Express, and then drawing a 2-drop. Not a great sequence for us there. Yeah, I think will probably just kill us. That's my guess. We can't even kill the creature and hope not to crew this thing. So I guess we just leave up Death Touch. Take another 4 damage, go to 11. No creature before combat is interesting. Yeah, Outrider. No matter what, we're going to have to trade, so I guess I'll just play the Stomper, get some life. We could just take 4, go to 12, and then Nature's Way, the Outrider. I don't mind taking 4 and then seeing what our opponent plays. Sure. Yeah, I think we gotta kill that one. It's a bigger threat. I wish we drew a land there so we could play the Steed as well. Fortunately, we don't get the opportunity to do that. Sure. Wish we had the 1/4 now. No matter what we choose with this thing, I think we've done it wrong so far. Or at least we've been punished for it. Ugh, it's gross. I don't like chump blocking, but we're facing down a 4/4 Trampler. And I'd rather keep the servo so that we can play this Servant. Alright. Hopefully this will stabilize us. See what our opponent has. Dead to any combat trick. Okay. Well, it's not good for us. If they fabricate making a servo, that probably means they have Inspired Charge. Maybe not in hand, but probably in their deck at least. Want to get this down so we can threaten to at least double block if we draw another flyer. I guess our reach guy is gone, so that probably isn't going to work. We have the guy that makes 2 Thopter tokens, so that could be a draw. Except even in that case, we need the double blue just to cast it, so we won't be able to activate our P-Fall. Not sure that we have an out to this 4-4. Yeah, that's definitely not it. All right. It's possible I blew the Nature's Way too early, but if I didn't kill their guy, they would have Sky Whaler's shot or Stomper and then hit us for 1,000,000. So I think we did need to kill it. Alright, this is probably going to be the Inspired Charge turn. Let's see. Jump this thing. Block the trample guy, block this, block the 2/2, and attempt to try. We can't do that, can we? Guess we have to block here. Okay. I don't really want to change anything. I mean, I think we're fine at competing in a green mid-range mirror. The 1/4s are maybe bad in that scenario. Certainly don't do anything against the 4-power flyer. What can we do instead? Maybe this is worth bringing in against our opponent's like bigger top end. I don't think so. The torch could help us trade up. And bring in another flyer. Do that. I think the 1/4s just aren't relevant bodies against a Pima Outrider or Riparian Tiger or the Angel. Like, it doesn't block any of those. I could also see bringing in the Express here, but I'm not going to go that deep yet. Alright, this hand is slow, but it's good. Would like a 4-drop next turn, or at least a 3-drop. Something I can do. Opponent disconnected and is back now, but play yet. Alright, guess we're waiting until next turn to do something. We kept a slow hand and didn't draw any early action, unfortunately. If our opponent does nothing on turn 4, that's pretty nice. There's a high likelihood that whatever we play here gets shot. What do we want to die? Oh yeah, so, right, we play this thing, go wide on our board, and we make enough artifacts to play the serpent next turn. Or some future turn, at least. So, opponent doesn't have a lot of good options here. Sure. Definitely fine with that one. Easy blocks. Actually, blocking the 2/2 is not free in this case, because if they have Inspired Charge, it saves both of their guys. I'd rather just make my opponent do something here and not lose the 0/3 for nothing. Okay. Oh, that was actually not great. Because now I can't play the 5/6, which was, as I said, my plan before. 5/6 doesn't block this any better than a 5/4 does, though. Yeah. We could also just play our own 4/4. Nothing's really going to block this if they pump energy into it. So I just have to hope that they aren't going to be able to do that, you know, for too many turns. If they do, I just won't be able to make the block there. I'll have to take 6 damage here. They didn't. Well, I'm going to make the block. I don't really have any way to, you know, answer a combat trick anyway, so make my opponent use it, ties up their mana for the turn, and then I get to play a 4/4 of my own next turn. Okay. Alright, now these still don't block all that well, but what are you going to do? That's what we have. And these tigers are such a beating. I'm guessing the mana is gonna, or the energy is gonna get paid on both. We're gonna have to chump and take 9. But now if they don't have any energy left, we're gonna be able to block both of these creatures. Yeah, that thing's gross. No answer to a 4/4. I wish I had a takedown in my sideboard. Even a 6 mana 4/4 flyer is just still hard to beat somehow. I want to play the Theorist so that I could try to scry into an answer, but I just don't have any way to do that. I need to play 2 creatures here because I have to block all of the trample damage and the 2/2. I could kill my own Prophetic Prism as a way to gain a couple of life, but then I need 3 mana for that. Kind of 1 mana short of doing what I'd like to. And if I play any of these big guys, the 2/2 kills me. I guess the only thing I can do is represent select for inspection. Not that I expect my opponent to do anything about that. The hell is this? What does this mean? I mean, I'm just double blocking, obviously. And if they have a Skywhaler shot, I'm dead. Okay. So we have some live draws now. Nature's Way would be good. Don't think that does anything though. Make a 5/5 long tusk cub for whatever that does me. Angel kills me. And so we got run over by a red-white vehicle deck. And this game we just got out-tempoed on these mid-range creatures, and we didn't have a way to block the 6/6s. And by the time we stabilized, a single flyer was enough to kill us in both games. So not looking good for us. I think our deck was pretty medium, and we certainly didn't have any exciting cards, but I thought it would perform better than this. I thought it would be a 2-1 performance. I think that's about average for what our deck ended up being. I'm not sure if we can even get anything out of this last match. I don't remember. Alright, well, this looks like an easy win on the play, I would think. Our opponent basically needs a 2-drop here. In red-white, they should have one, I would think. If it's an artifact, I would probably just kill it. Oh, that is not the 2-drop they needed. One thing we can do here is exchange the 2/1 because our opponent's not going to be able to give it Death Touch. So we can upgrade our 2/1 into something, if they play a target worth stealing. Not going to trade for this 1/1 though. Our opponent needs a combat trick here if they want to trade for the cub. Just need to draw lands here. I think our hand's good enough to win if we do that. Yikes. Alright. I guess we found a target for shrewd negotiation. Hope we draw land here. Not quite. We can just kill it, I guess. Probably what we're going to have to do now. We can save the negotiation for later. Do we want to wait till our opponent spends energy on it, though? What are they going to do? Flying, Vigilance, Lifelink. Okay, you can't give it Indestructible in red-white. Could have Built to Last, I guess, is the only way that I'd get punished for making them activate it. I do want to use it this turn because I have a lot to do over the next few turns with my mana between the Tiger, the Negotiation, probably a Serpent in a turn or two. But I am just going to wait and see what our opponent does with the Wanderer on the next combat phase. Okay. Well, now I think I definitely blocked the 3/4. So, oh shit, I didn't respond. Oh, I'm such an idiot. Alright, well, I was distracted by the fact that I'm going to block the 3/4 with my 4/4 cub. And didn't really pay enough attention to the trigger. I was supposed to Appetite the Unnatural in response to that trigger. Oh well. This will give me the opportunity to steal it, which is good. I'm still happy with that. Built to Smash. Why are you doing that on the 4/4? Don't you want to save your guy? Sure. Yeah, sure. Have at it. Gain some life, don't care. Eating your guy, getting a 2-for-1, stealing your multiform Wanderer next turn. Yeah, you really did it. You got me to 9. Wait, where did the last energy come from? I thought they used it all. Well, I'm not going to say that the Appetite for the Unnatural mistake did not cost me a bit of damage here, but I think I'm still in okay shape. In fact, my opponent has no energy at all right now. So I guess I can just kill it the old-fashioned way. I don't have any energy either, so I can't really make much use of this at the moment. I will be able to get energy, but whatever. I don't think I need to take this thing to win. I'd rather just play out more blockers. So let's kill this. Opponent's going to have to block with the 4/4 and trade if they don't want me to get the energy. If I get the energy, then I can block as a 5/5. So they have to make this trade, basically. And I will fabricate because I want to make my serpent cheaper. I'll create a servo. Okay. Guess we trade. I could kill this artifact, but I really don't need to. Even if they kill my 5/6, I can still make a chump block here. Okay, as long as they don't play a 4/4 flyer, then we'll be fine. Go for the attack here. If they double block, then I can kill the Mastodon in combat. Otherwise, we get some damage in, and then we can just play Tiger, I guess. What do we play here? Do we take the 4/5 now? Hijack. Eek. Well, that's not great. But unless they're killing us this turn, I think we're still okay with that. We are going to have to do some chump blocks here. And we go to 1. Oh, that's going to kill us. Well, I guess not. We have some plays. Fabricate so that we can shrewd negotiation next turn. Create a servo. We're going to definitely pass here. We want all of our blocks available. I assume our opponent's going to attack with everything, thinking that the 1 damage is going to kill us. And with that trigger on the stack, we can kill the Mastodon and then eat the Ibex. And eat this, damn it, the Pinger. Well, maybe not. Our opponent didn't think it was necessary, so good on them. But we still get to eat the 3/2. Yeah. If they drew a combat trick, I guess it's safer to block with the 5/6 because it still trades with a +3/+3. So we'll do that. Renegade Freighter. Okay. I want to keep enough power back so that I can crew it. Unfortunately, that means... no. Keeping back the Serpent because it blocks the Ibex by itself. And if our opponent has removal for it, we can go ahead and crew the Freighter. Still saving this Shrewd Negotiation until we absolutely need it. I guess it makes more sense to attack with the Freighter there. Does 1 extra damage compared to the Tiger. Could be sending with both. Maybe I'm being way too cautious, actually. I think I am. Because I can just chump block with these guys for a couple of turns if I need to. And I could have already had my opponent down to, like, I don't know, maybe 4. Protecting from haste seems worth it. Okay, now we can actually crew the Freighter, right? Attacking with the Tiger. Not crewing with the Freighter. Tapping 2 creatures down just seems like too much of a cost, especially when our opponent can grant haste. But I am going to start pumping the Tiger, because that means we should have a lethal attack next turn with all this trample. Actually, I could just take... yeah, I should do that. I can just take this guy so that there are fewer haste threats to kill us with. Go ahead. Probably could have even killed my opponent that turn. Didn't really think about stealing his guy and then granting it haste. Might have been possible. Red-white again, so maybe we want to lower our curve, although I don't think we necessarily need to. Our opponent didn't seem like they were really aggroing us out in that game. They had some decent targets for the negotiation, so that's a card that I would usually board out, but I think it seemed okay. Let's just run it back. Alright, this is a pretty good curve. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4. What else can you ask for? Plus we have 3 artifacts in that curve, so that if we draw our serpents, they're going to be nice and cheap. Alright, maybe our opponent is comboing off with the Pummeler. They had some energy, but I don't think it was in, you know, particularly all-in energy deck, which is, I think, what you need for the Pummeler to be good. Just threaten to block here. I don't want to get completely blown out by the Pummeler for, like, 16 damage or something stupid. Okay, so you can make it a 4/4, I guess. I wonder if I should trade this. I think I'll trade the freighter, actually. Yeah. Crew this. Make our opponent use energy. Yeah. Alright, I guess our opponent didn't see that play or hoped that we would not see that play. But either way, that was game. So we can view our deck here. Didn't work out that well for us. Again, I think this was a 2-1 deck. I think it's strong. I mean, it's got a lot of good creatures at the top end of the curve here. The way the game's played out, we just didn't have quite enough cheap interaction for our opponent. We had some decent blockers, some 1/4s, some death touchers, but we ended up having to chump block with those pretty often just because our opponents had either combat tricks or vehicles that were too large for us to profitably block, even with our 1/4s, which would normally be pretty good at blocking an early aggressive deck. And then our opponent got out to a faster start than us in both of the games against the green mirror match. And we had no answer for their tigers, which were attacking at 6/6s most turns. And our biggest creatures are either 5/6 or 4/4 on defense. The energy buffs you only on attack. So the format really lends itself to racing. If you get on the front foot and can keep ahead of your opponent, then that's pretty much where you want to be. I think this blue-green deck, it's definitely not what you want out of a blue-green archetype. You want to be more energy-focused most of the time. This one is more of a blue-green artifact deck, which is unusual. I don't think that's a common archetype, and we can see here the results weren't great for it either. Even though I think most of these cards are pretty decent, they just didn't quite compete with what our opponents were doing. Couldn't quite keep up in speed or interaction, and we lost because of it. So I think the deck was okay. It's not an archetype that you should be trying to draft. You'd rather see more energy payoffs in these colors. We never really saw any. We passed a few things earlier that before we knew that we were doing the energy thing. I don't remember what they were exactly, but I remember saying we don't have a lot of energy or uses for energy, so pass this, pass that. And then it turned out we settled into blue-green. I'm not sure if there was another direction we could have taken this draft. The Serpents definitely didn't work out all that well for us here, though I think they are good if you get enough artifacts, just that we have too few. We really didn't end up with enough green Fabricate. If we had the 4-drop that fabricates instead of some of these creatures, or instead of maybe even the tigers, like if we were down on 5-drops and instead picked up the 4-drop that fabricates, our curve would be a little bit nicer, and we'd be able to play some of our fabricate incentives, like the Fairgrounds Trumpeter would be a little bit better. So we kind of had a split in our focus in this deck, and even though these individual cards are decently powerful, they didn't really work well enough together to get the job done. So we'll try and do better next time. 1-2 is definitely disappointing, but thanks for watching. And if you have comments about how I could have gone into a different archetype in the draft, definitely would be interested to hear that. Blue-green, it seemed like we're the most open colors, but we didn't really end up with a strong deck at the end of it. Red-white as a multicolor pair seemed fairly open, just because we saw some of the uncommons late. But those individual colors didn't seem to either get opened much, or at least didn't get passed to us, so I didn't really see a reason for us to be in red-white. We didn't really see decent vehicles either, so it didn't seem like that's what we were supposed to be doing. Yeah, I'm not sure what we could have done differently in the draft, what direction we could have gone, but certainly something worth thinking about, and I'm open to hearing some comments. If you have some ideas, let me know. Thanks again for watching.